Hello, today I'm going to be giving a demo of the flowchart feature in the Adaptive Lesson Editor. To start with, you need to create an adaptive page within a Torus lesson. From there, you can go ahead and edit the page. The first thing you'll be asked for is a name for your new adaptive lesson. I'm going to go ahead and make a little kind of contrived example here about making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Then you're asked which builder version you want. The advanced authoring is kind of the older, more advanced authoring environment that we've had for quite some time. It lets you create far more configurable lessons. It's also a lot harder to use. We're going to be focusing on the basic authoring, which is this new flowchart feature. And then it asks for your screen size. Right now only landscape is supported, but we do plan on supporting portrait in the future. And then from there, I can actually open my little adaptive lesson here. What you see here is a view of the structure of the lesson. Each of these squares on the screen, the welcome screen, the end of lesson there, those are screens that the learner will see when they're actually going through the lesson. The arrows between them show paths that you can take between those. The first thing I like to do is plan out my lesson. So I like having a welcome and an end just like this, and then I'm going to put some things between those, kind of sandwich them in if you would. I'm going to first talk about the bread for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And one of the things I want to do on that screen is ask the learner what they should start with, and bread will be the correct answer. So I dragged a text input screen down here to the little plus sign that was between those two, and it inserted that screen for me. I'm also going to give it a name so I can keep track of it. And that's right over here to name those. Now, once I know that I have bread, I think I'd like a multiple choice screen where I can tell them about different toppings they can put within the sandwich and then ask them which would be appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and drag a multiple choice question screen from up here. I'm going to drop it on that little plus sign between them, and then that screen will appear. Now I have a little 4-screen lesson going on here, but there's no adaptivity. There's no branching between screens or anything like that. So maybe the first thing I want to do is if they don't get the bread answer correctly, like if they just can't come up with that, maybe I want some kind of an instruction to reinforce, hey, you really want to start with bread. So I'm going to grab an instructional screen, and instead of dropping it on one of these plus signs between the boxes, I'm going to drop it right on the bread box. And that's going to give an alternate path out of that box. So now, when you're on the bread screen, you could either end up on this multiple choice screen, which, I meant to name that, which is always a good practice. This is the peanut butter and jelly screen. Or you can end up on this instructional screen down here. And I'll call this one like my bread remediation screen, in case they get that one wrong. Now, if you see, the bread remediation screen goes right to the end of lesson. That's probably not what I want. If they get that first part wrong, I do want them continuing on to the peanut butter and jelly. So I'm going to click on this screen here, and then I'm going to look over on the left, and you'll notice that there's a set of rules down right here. Right now, there's only one rule. It says always go to the end screen. So I'm going to change that. So instead of saying always go to the end screen, it's always going to go to the peanut butter and jelly screen like that. I hit done here. The arrows kind of reconfigure for the new structure of the lesson, and I can see that from the bread screen, you might either end up going to the peanut butter and jelly screen, or you might take a little detour through this bread remediation screen. Likewise, on the peanut butter and jelly, I'd like a couple paths to go to. I think I'm going to put when I actually author that screen, I think I'm going to put a distractor in there for like pickles, like just some absurd option that definitely shouldn't be picked. And if they do pick pickles, I think I want to have an instructional screen that tells them, hey, you really need to pay more attention to what we're trying to teach you here. Likewise, if they forget to pick peanut butter or they forget to pick jelly, we'll probably want to say, hey, you missed one of the options. Let's go ahead and re-prompt them. So I'm going to make another multiple choice screen. I'm going to drop that on the peanut butter and jelly screen. So now I have 3 different ways of coming out of that screen. If they got it correct, we'll just go right to the end of the lesson. If they picked that pickles, we're going to go to this pickle screen, and let me rename it now so that we can keep track of things. And if they missed one of the options that they should have picked, they're going to go to this one here. I missed PB or jelly. And now this is the structure for my little sample contrived lesson here. There's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 screens. There's a few different paths. Once I have this general structure, I'm going to go in and start filling in what's actually on these screens. Excuse me. And to do that, I'm going to click on one of these screens, and this little pencil icon appears with the edit screen. And if I click on that, it's going to bring up, first it's going to ask me which layout do I want to use, and then it's going to give me an opportunity to actually edit the screen. You don't have to pick a layout, but if you do, these are all kind of templates that are pre-made. I'm not going to spend too much time actually building these screens, so I'm just kind of pick one of these that looks kind of reasonable. Here's one that has a big old image in the top. It's got text in the bottom, text on the top, text on the bottom. But this is our welcome screen, so let's just add that in there so we can understand what's happening later on. Welcome screen here. And you could put, whatever instructional content you want on there. The next screen was the bread screen, so I'm going to jump down to the bread screen by clicking on it in this left-hand column. Again, I can pick a template. Since I had put in a text input screen on the flowchart view, the templates here are filtered to my text input templates. If I change my mind at the last minute and I actually wanted a number input or multi-line text or anything else, I can just go pick one of those, but it picks the right one by default. So I'm going to do one like this. It's got a picture. It's got a text input down here. And this is the first time we're hitting something where I could have a response for the learner that could be right or wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that text input. And over here on the right-hand side, we have this panel that lets me set all the options about what I just picked, about that component on the screen. And I'm going to start by having a different prompt, and the prompt is going to be, what should we start with? And obviously, you would actually teach that to the learner before prompting them and asking them what they want. For a text input, there's a bunch of options that can define what's correct or incorrect. I'm going to set just a couple here. I'm going to say you have to type in at least 3 characters. So if you type in fewer than 3 characters, it's just going to, if the learner types in fewer than 3, it's just going to be like, hey, you didn't actually answer this question yet. Go ahead and try again. I'm going to also say it must contain the word bread. It could contain more. So if there's other things I don't want it to contain, I could make a little list here with commas between them. I can add correct and incorrect feedback right here, and these will pop up after the learner actually tries to type in something. But I'm just going to leave the default correct and incorrect feedback. There's kind of some baked in by itself. From there, I'm going to go over to the bread remediation screen. And we're just going to pick a quick little template here, and I'm not really going to author much. I'm just going to put a label so that we can tell later. And that completes that whole bread path that we have there. So then there's the peanut butter and jelly screen. So we're going to go to the peanut butter and jelly screen. I'm going to pick one of these options here. I see these have it's hard to know this when you're first starting, but I see these have little square inputs. So I know that's like a check all that applies, or a multi-select multiple choice. So I picked one of these because that's really what I want. I'm going to pick that component, and I'm going to fill in my choices. And let's do pickles first, the one we clearly don't want them picking. And then we'll have the peanut butter and the jelly options. So now I have my 3 options. I have to tell the system which of those is correct and which are incorrect. And you do that for one of these by just simply checking off which ones you want the learner to have picked in the end. So definitely peanut butter and jelly, and definitely not pickles. So we've set our correct answer. The system will understand what's correct, what's incorrect. Something else I want to do is if they do pick pickles, I'm going to say, ew, well, that's pretty gross. If they pick peanut butter or jelly or miss one, I'm just going to use the default feedback for all of those. You know what? No, I'm going to do incorrect feedback of you missed one. I like that a little bit better, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So now I'm going to go over to the pickle screen, and again, I'm just going to have an instructional screen that explains why you probably shouldn't put pickles on your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm sure there's someone out there that's like, well, I put pickles on my peanut butter and jelly. Well, it's a very contrived example, like I said. So now if this is the screen that we wanted, if you missed peanut butter or you missed jelly, like you only picked one or the other, or maybe you didn't pick any, I want to go ahead and give the learner another shot at it. So I'm going to make another screen that looks very much like that first multiple choice screen. I'm going to go ahead and kind of do the options like this. We got pickles, we got peanut butter, and we got jelly. And you know, in the prompting here and in the instructional content, I'd probably say like, "Hey, remember, there's two options that you have to pick. Don't miss one of them," or something like that. I could fill out some correct and incorrect feedback here, but for the purposes of this lesson, I think that's pretty good. So now I think let's just fill in a little bit for our end of screen lesson here. Again, I'm just gonna kind of randomly pick one of these templates and just fill in the title here so we can understand what's happening. All right, so now we filled in all of our screens. I'm gonna go back to that flowchart view that we were looking at in the beginning. And on this, I can see that now I have all my paths, but a whole bunch of these screens have yellow icons instead of green. And the yellow icons means there's something about the screen that's not quite right. So let's look at the bread screen first. And over here on the right, it's going to tell me what's not quite right. So it's telling me outgoing paths are not defined. So right now I need to go ahead and define the logic leading to the bread remediation screen. And what it means is I have rules over here that determine where the learner goes after they finish the screen. And right now it just says always go to PB and J. So what we really want is only go to that screen when we're correct. So whenever we're correct, we're going to go to that PB and J screen. But now I'm going to change this unknown rule here that it kind of auto-generated for us. And I'm going to say anytime I'm incorrect, we're going to go to the bread remediation screen. Now, if you notice, the little icon here turned green. There's no validation errors. The arrow turned from a dashed arrow to a solid arrow, saying that this rule here is now defined and it understands what to do with that. Now, likewise, over here on the peanut butter and jelly screen, I want to define my outgoing rules so that the learner ends up in the right place. So right now, you know, much like before, we have an always rule and we have two unknown rules. So I'm going to change this always rule to be a correct rule. So whenever we're correct, go to the end of the lesson. Great. Next, I want to change my my pickles rule here, and I want to say whenever the incorrect option pickles is selected, go to the pickles screen. And this is the way to do like common errors and stuff. So if you're doing math and the kid mixed up the numerator and denominator or something, and that's a common error that they often do, and you could do some reteaching on that. That's a way of having specific paths for specific errors. So I'm going to go ahead and say done there, and then I'm going to say any other incorrect option. So any incorrect, I'm going to go to the missed PB or J, because that's the only other thing that could have happened. They missed one or both of those. So now I have all my rules set up. I have three paths outside of my PB and jelly. So I could go to the end of the lesson to pickles, or I could go down to the missed PB and J. And that's how you create an adaptive lesson with the flowchart feature. And I'll show you real quick what that ends up looking like to the learner. So if you're in one of these edit screen panel screens here, you can click this little button here and it'll go to the preview lesson. And this will show you what it'll actually look like to a learner. So here we're starting on the welcome screen. It says welcome screen here, and that's all we had authored. I'm going to click the next button like the learner would. And from here it says, what should we start with? And I'm going to get this wrong, and I'm going to get it wrong intentionally. So I'm going to say we should put it on PETA and hit the next. And it's like, no, that's not correct. Try again. And I'm just going to keep doing that a few times. Okay, so once you get it wrong 3 times, the system, and this is how we have it set up for all of our question types. So you get 3 chances to get it, and then after the third, it's going to tell you what the answer is. And here it's telling me you seems to be having trouble. The answer must contain the following: bread. Click next to continue. So I'm going to click next, and it's going to bring us on that bread remediation path that we had set up. And from here, you could teach why bread is the first thing that you should have on a sandwich and everything else. So then our next question was, what should we put on it? And we had the pickles, we had the peanut butter, we had the jelly. I'll go ahead and pick I'm going to pick nothing at first. And if I hit next, it's just going to tell me, please answer the question. This does not count against their 3 tries at the question. Like if they don't do anything, they can just keep hitting next over and over and over again. They have to actually make some change. They have to check something off or type something in or whatever the question type is for it to be considered a wrong attempt. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click pickles, and it's going to give me the first. It's going to give me the feedback that I had authored in for pickles. Ew, that's gross. But then also because I have a path set up, it's going to take me right along that path. Now, if you notice, when you have an adaptive path set up for a specific answer, it doesn't wait for you to get it wrong 3 times. It just immediately takes you along that path. So that's why I got it wrong on the first attempt. It was like, hey, you made this common error. Let's go teach you about that common error. And then I hit next, and I end up on the end of the lesson screen. And that is our adaptive lesson flowchart feature. Thanks a lot for watching.